Welcome back to the Daily Wrap. Let's check in with Steve Malzberg and see what he has planned for tonight. Steve.
All right, Rick, coming up right after the Daily Wrap, Mike Huckabee joins us for an exclusive interview. We'll ask him about the latest numbers from Iowa. Here's a man who won it 8 years ago, of course. Also, Hillary makes a boxcars reference, a reference to the Holocaust. Nobody says boo. You remember what happened to Governor Huckabee when he said oven. So we'll talk to him about that. Also, Alan Keyes is here. Not a big fan of Donald Trump, as you will hear. We got the Malzberg panel over the Texas police officer shooting and much more coming up next at 7 p.m. Eastern, right after the Daily Wrap.
Who thought I'd ever have something in common with Alan Keyes? Well, wonders never cease. So, despite spending some $30 million in television advertising and lobbying during the month of May, actually the month of August, the opponents of the Iran nuclear deal may be coming up empty in their effort to block the Obama administration's treaty with Iran. While key Democrats like Senators Chuck Schumer and Bob Menendez have broken ranks with the White House over the agreement, the August effort to steer other Democratic members of Congress away from the deal now appears to have hit a wall, as even red state Democrats are indicating they will support Obama and his treaty. Now, with only a few more Democrats needed in the Senate to support a successful filibuster, which would thwart a resolution condemning the treaty, it is now more likely than not that the president will be spared the need to veto any such resolutions, as the plan will now die on its own in the Senate. Heather Hansen, I mean, this is looking more and more like a reality, which frankly surprises me. I did think the resolutions would pass both chambers of Congress and that the president would have to veto it and win it that way, but now not necessarily.
I think we've always thought that, and it really shows the power of politics over what people actually want. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit later about the polls, but it doesn't matter. And I think what they're counting on is the fact that people are going to be, for the next election, so focused on the economy and things that are important here at home, and less so on what happened in the past.
Well, David, isn't this an instance where, because this deal is so technical, and I know, you listen, I've seen the arguments on both sides. I accept the arguments on both sides. I see the logic that I hear from different people. How can we expect the American people, and I'm usually the one yelling that they need to be better educated, how can we expect them to reach an intelligent decision that can guide their representatives?
It is pretty technical, and I'm not surprised it's come to this. Look, until Iran recognizes the right of Israel to exist, this is going to be a toxic issue in this country. Certainly the Jewish communities around this country. This is why a lot of people in the DNC, they just want to see this go away. They don't want to vote on it either way. They don't like the deal. They don't want the deal. The constituency doesn't want the deal, but they want to support their president. That's all this is about. It's about politics, just like Heather said.
David said the magic words. He said the people in the DNC just want to see this go away. I think you're absolutely right, and I think it's not just the DNC. I think the Democrats in Congress want to see it go away. Do you think that by nipping it earlier than having to go through a veto process, it protects the Democrats from having to deal with it?
No, absolutely, and we saw the move by Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who's also the head of the DNC, keeping a resolution off the floor so that people wouldn't have to vote on it, in particular her. There's a lot of politics at play here, and yeah, nip it in the bud early and don't let it get too far along, and you might get away with it.
Yeah, I think they're thinking. And as Heather referred, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I have something. First of all, this is an executive order, and this is what President Obama wants. He wants to make this his legacy. And, you know, half the Republicans...
It's not an executive order, it's an executive agreement.
An executive agreement, excuse me. All right, but half the Republicans running for president have said they're going to tear this thing up within hours after they're sworn in.
I don't really believe them, but they're saying.
But let's say that's true. How can this be a legacy if that in fact could happen?
Yeah, if you have a Republican presidency. In the meantime, though, Heather, you alluded to this. While the Democrats in the Senate may not be getting the message, a new Quinnipiac poll reveals that 55% of Americans do not favor the deal. That's in stark contrast to an early April Washington Post ABC News poll that indicated that 59% of Americans did favor the deal. So what's responsible, guys, for this change of heart on the part of the American public, Heather?
I think the more information that we get, the more that it looks like it's a bad deal. You know, the fact that they're continue to have their proxy wars. They now have money to do their proxy wars, that they get to inspect themselves. And I think the frustration, and now I think we may see it on the Democratic side, these politicians are supposed to be working for us, and yet it's never what we want. It's whatever politics.
Bill, is it as Heather's suggesting, is it actually more information in the months that have passed, or is it more money in television commercials being spent by the opponents, way outspending those who support the deal?
Well, you can't really separate the two of them, I suppose, ultimately, but I agree with Heather. I think the more that this gets discussed and the more that people realize the terms that this deal was conducted under and agreed upon, I think they're finding it distasteful.
I'm going to just say 3 words: state-sponsored terrorism. I think that's what's in the back of everybody's mind.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, what if it turns out, just quickly, Heather, that this deal works?
Well,
what are we going to be saying in a few years?
Works how? I mean, we won't know. We won't really know for a very long time.
Yeah, I suppose that's right. And I guess that's my point. Because we don't know, maybe we shouldn't be so sure about it. Either way, in any event, we want to know what you think about the Iran deal. Let us know at newsmaxtv.com/comments. Coming up, you'll never guess who wants Vice President Joe Biden to enter the race.